Aazam here, your transformation coach and founder of Heal the Heart. I empower you to achieve mental emotional clarity, find your purpose, and take actions toward living a more fulfilled and happier life. This is another video from Bits of Inspiration when women come to share their stories with the hope that they can empower and inspire others. We are joined by Angelita Weber,
Thank
a
you.
beautiful woman who is a yoga instructor and founder of Season of Gratitude, which she might be able to talk very briefly about. She's here to talk about cutting the umbilical cord.
Like that invisible
Vi-
umbilical cord.
Visible when the children are born,
Right.
but invisible when they're grown children and they
Right.
decide to move forward in life. And her experience has been that within 1 year, all her adult children, three adult children she has, decided to move forward with their plan and make their mark in the world, and it left her with emotions that as moms especially we all deal with, the empty nesting.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Angelita,
Well, thank
for
you.
coming and willingness to share your story. Sometimes telling our stories is not as easy as we think it is, but sharing it brings healing to us as well as to help others understand that they're not alone in this
Right.
world, and
Right.
they might share the same experiences. So can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
They grew up. That's what happened. They grew up and they decided, there's a world out there to explore, and they wanted to go explore it. And I have to say that I love that our relationship was one of love, and there was a foundation that was strong for them to move out and do their own things. It was nothing of anger or frustration or, oh, Mom, you're in my hair, I just need to get away. It was nothing of that. As a matter of fact, it was quite the opposite. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. It's interesting. Within 3 years, I had 3 children. And that was overwhelming, as you know, having even a child, but let alone 3 children within 3 years, one being physically disabled, and then becoming a single mom. But those emotions, each time one of those children came into the world, I know with my second, I was able to identify postpartum depression.
Okay.
But me being in my head, the story was I had to be perfect for everybody. Everything had to be proper for everybody. That I didn't feel comfortable sharing that story. I felt myself going through it. I read about it. Oprah was great about having people on her show about it. But I realized the day that I had a hard time opening the door and walking outside with my newborn baby, that emotionally and physically it was hard for me to be out in the world as this new person, because they say when we have a child, it's not the child is the only person born. We are reborn into mom, right? And it's beautiful.
The point that you're making, that when you are a new mom, it is not just the child that is being born, it is you being reborn,
Yes.
but as a different person.
Yes. Yes.
So-
you are now in this new skin.
Exactly.
Right?
So my question, I know you were going to talk about empty nest.
Yes.
However, you brought a very important point, which a lot of new moms go through. Some recognize, some don't, and some feel comfortable sharing. Some feel shame and guilt of feeling that.
Absolutely.
So, how was your feeling? What was it that you were feeling?
There's that huge hormonal imbalance that, again, these things people don't talk about. felt like I was crazy in my head, and I couldn't put it into words, and I definitely could not express that to my husband at the time. And I didn't have a lot of family to fall back on, but I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be labeled.
Shame.
I didn't want to have that be my story.
Mhm.
But the thing is it was my story. And I forced myself, when I came to the realization of what it was, to take a 30-minute walk every day with my child and be out in the world and be okay being
Mhm.
mom, being perfectly perfect in this new place, but it wasn't perfect to who Angelita was before,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about recognizing it then was the potential if we had another child, which we did because we had 3 in 3 years. I knew right away in my 3-month checkup that I was already pregnant again. So I knew that, well, if it's happening now, it might happen again.
Mhm.
And it did. But because I was already preparing myself with the tools and reading and acknowledging it and accepting. I think accepting
Accepting.
is the biggest thing of it's okay.
Yeah.
This is normal.
Mhm.
It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to mourn. And it's okay to accept.
It is the process to me is like first the awareness, becoming aware, and then not discredit it or just try to push it aside. It's awareness and acceptance.
Yes.
And then after you accept, then looking for resources.
Right.
What is it that I can do? Because now you know there is something, and if you just ignore it, it's going to stay. So then looking for resources, and then willingness to take action.
Right.
Because you can have all three, but your willingness is not there to take action, so
Right.
nothing changes, and
Right.
you'll be stuck. But if you know of, you're aware, you're accepting, and you know what your resources is, that willingness of taking action
Right.
is what pushes you forward or moves you forward.
It was important.
Mhm,
It was
exactly.
important for my mental stability. It was important to take care of this child who was physically disabled. It was important for me to take care of the baby that was forming in my body. And when the second one came out, it may have been as much as the first one. However, because now I had these tools in my toolbox, it was like, oh, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to say I overcame it. You don't overcome it, you work with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when the third one came, again, it may have been just as much, but it truly didn't feel like it at all.
Yeah.
It just felt like, okay, hi friend, how are you? Hello friend, right? And it became that. I think
Yeah.
it's when we welcome what we call negatives in our lives as love.
Mm-hmm. Have you
Right?
seen those?
I'm sorry.
No. Have you seen those commercials? I think it is for Pampers or some of the diaper companies. That the first child, it's like the parents try to manage everything,
Yeah.
sterilize everything, make sure everything is scheduled, and then the second child comes and
Eating
they're
dirt.
yeah, it's like they're wiping it and wiping the pacifier and giving
Yeah.
it to him and everything.
Yeah.
It just every time it's like anything you
It gets
experience,
easier.
it gets easier.
It gets easier.
It is still challenging,
It's still the same stuff.
and especially when you have that many kids so close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do those experiences and emotions translate to
Later in life.
many years later when they leave? Especially in your case, you became a single mom.
I did.
And you brought them up as a single mom.
Yeah.
So now in their 20s probably, or
Yes.
close
20, 22, 23. Yes.
So how those emotions translate to the time that they leave and you became empty nester?
Even just thinking about it, brings tears to my eyes. It was